Hey YouTube, MaxZ2021 here, coming at you with a first impressions video for the manga Miss Kobayashi's Dragon Maid, Volume 1. And before I get into my first impressions on it and my thoughts and whatnot, I wanted to go over a little background information on this series. The manga, to my knowledge, has been around since 2013. And the currently airing anime adaptation, which is being handled by KyoAni, which is pretty cool, in my opinion. The anime has been airing since sometime in January of this year, and from what I've seen of the anime through like GIFs and images and memes and whatnot that I've seen people post on Facebook and Twitter, I like what I've seen. It looks very aesthetically pleasing. Aesthetically pleasing. It looks nice. So, oh, and I almost forgot one other thing. The English release of Volume 1 was in October of 2016. And I believe Volume 2 came out in either December or January, so it's either a bi-monthly or quarterly release, so new volumes will come out either every 2 months or every 3 months. I'm not exactly sure on the release schedule. But with that out of the way, I'm gonna dive right into my first impressions of it. And first off, I'm gonna go over the outer layer. I'm gonna go over the front, back, and spine of the volume. So, on the front, there's not a whole lot going on. I mean, you got Koboyashi in the background, and then you got Toru, the Dragon Maid, and the front center, and there's not really a whole lot going on besides them in the title. I mean, there's this like little blue thing with some dragon wings on both sides and a tail. And there's like a bunch of negative space, I guess. So, like, I'd had to assume that because of all the negative space, it's getting readers or someone in like a bookstore, whatever, to focus on the two main characters that are featured on the front cover. And I think it conveys to the reader what the title means, or something like that. Like, you have a dragon girl in a maid outfit, so that gets someone to think, oh, well, that's the Dragon Maid, so who's Miss Kobayashi? And you see this other person here, and that should lead someone to think, oh, that must be the Kobayashi person in the title. So, that's just my thoughts on the layout. As for the spine, there's not a whole lot going on. It's nothing super fancy. I mean, you got the title, you got this picture of Toru, but it's just like a kind of squashed version of her face on the cover. You got the volume number, and then you got the 7 Seas logo. So there's not too much going on. I guess one thing I did forget to mention about the front cover is that, not really sure if you can see it that well, but where it's Dragon Maid, it's kind of got like some little lines on all the letters to make it look like dragon scales, to further convey the Dragon Girl aspect of the Dragon Maid. But I don't think that's too important. And lastly, on the back, there's the little blurb thing. I'm pretty sure that's what it's called. The little thing that describes the volume. And this is Kana, one of the other main characters that shows up about halfway through the volume. And just like with the front, there's not much going on the back. So that would likely lead someone to believe that this character is important in some way to the plot or whatever. But, yeah, that's, my thoughts on the outer portion of the volume. Now, for the quality of the book, which I don't really need to go too much into, you get like 2 color pages at the front. You got basically the front image just without the text and whatnot. And then on the other side of that is the image from the back cover, but with no text or anything. And there was one page in chapter 2 that at first I thought some of the panels were a little pushed over or got kind of cut off when they were printing it. But what led me to think that was that some of the ink from this panel kind of bled over to the other page. So it kind of mirrors it a little. But, like, another thing that made me think this page was a little cut off on this side was that, hold on, let me find a good page. Something like the first page. See how it's kind of got a border around the panels? I figured that, like, most of the pages are set up like this, and then there's some where, like, a panel will go to the edge, or, like, that's how it was drawn or whatever, but yeah, because of the way all the pages, or most of the pages were set up, I figured that this page might have been cut off a little on this end, and the ink kind of bleeding over from this page to here didn't really help. But other than that, it's standard 7C's release, like a standard one of their single volumes, not one of the omnibus volumes, like their releases for Freezing or the Mayochiki omnibus volumes. But anyways, yeah, it's a pretty decent release. I mean, aside from that one little thing with the ink bleeding over into the following page, I didn't really see anything else wrong with the volume. And, yeah, that's my, thoughts on the quality of the volume. Now, I'm gonna talk about the plot, without really giving anything away, because they don't really dump too much plot on you, or not too much, exposition. Let's see. I think the best way I could put it is, this office worker named Koboyashi, she ends up, meeting Toru, the Dragon Maid. Well, she's not a Dragon Maid when they first meet, which they talk about how they meet in the second chapter. The first chapter just shows how they kind of interact with each other. And, it's a nice introductory chapter. You get a feel for their characters. And since it's a slice of life manga with comedy or comedic elements, it has to rely on the characters, or I don't want to say it's fully character driven, but a lot of the stuff that happens mainly revolves around how the characters interact with each other, which could be said about the majority of manga in the slice of life genre, especially with comedy elements. And there are like 2 instances where there's some action going on, but it's not like it's not like anything super serious like you would find in, say, a battle manga or a standard shonen manga where there's fighting. And oh dang, I kind of got off topic. I kind of got sidetracked. Anyways, yeah, Toru is a dragon girl, and Kobayashi meets her, and Toru is like severely wounded. She's got like a holy sword sticking out her back, and she came from whatever world she lived in where there's like a lot of dragons. And I'm going by the way it's been described from just this volume alone, I'd imagine that it's a fantasy world, kind of similar to The Devil's a Part-Timer. How the 2 main characters were in a fantasy setting and then they came to our world. That's kind of what happens in this series. But yeah, she comes across her, and I think she's basically about to die, more or less, because like I said, she's got a holy sword sticking out her back. And Kobayashi asks her if she wants to come stay at her place, and she's like, okay. So that's how it started out. Once they show the way it started, I guess, I'm not sure how to word that, but yeah, it just basically follows their everyday interactions with each other, at least for the first 5 volumes, not 5 volumes, the first 5 chapters, sorry about that. And then halfway through, the Kana shows up, and then it goes from just being interactions between Kobayashi and Toru to those 2 plus Kana, and yeah, it's like your standard slice of life series with comedy elements. Like I already said, I'm kind of drawing a blank here. But as the volume goes on, they introduce more characters, which, going by what I've seen of the anime, some of them end up becoming main characters, or like ones that end up interacting more with the main two than other ones, or like other side characters or something. And yeah, overall it's just pretty nice. I definitely liked what I've read, and I'm definitely gonna check out the anime when I get a chance. But another thing I forgot to mention was that there's a bit of Yuri here and there, mainly between. It's kind of like a one-sided thing where in between Toru being really fond of Kobayashi, but Kobayashi just sees her as like a maid or something, and even though it says all ages, and which I don't know why it says that, since there's a bit of fan service. It's not anything over the top or something. It's the kind of fan service that's played for laughs, but it's not really overbearing. I mean, I don't really know how it turns out in Volume 2 and on, and I know that there was a beach episode in the anime, so I'm sure that that's going to happen in the manga whenever I get to that point. But, yeah, overall, my initial thoughts on Miss Kobayashi's Dragon Maid is that it's rather enjoyable, and, the art's not super good, but it's nice to look at for the most part. There are some times where I felt it was a little sketchy, or kind of like a doodle, but other than that, it was pretty solid. And yeah, I definitely laughed a handful of times, since, like I mentioned, it does have comedic elements. But as far as recommendations go, I'd say that at least the first volume, from what I've read, of the 10 chapters that are in this volume, it was a nice read, and I think most people would enjoy it. I'd say maybe watch the anime too if you like this, or watch the anime first and then check out the manga, since there's only 2 volumes in English as far as I'm aware. But yeah, I'm gonna say that it was a nice read, and I would recommend it for most people. So I don't really have anything else to say, so thanks for watching.